I railed about it.
Most people did. Remember, all those fanboys did the Brokeback Mountain shit, and then the guy ended up being iconic. That even people that did not like cartoon films thought, hey, what he did was great acting. So give them a chance. That's the only point. You won't know until they try it. But Andy made a point that you've put... it's like if you let a guy coach a team. It's like I get so mad at like Patriots fans who are going to start and run down the coach. The guy knows more about football than you. He honestly does. Don't act like you would make a better coach than him. You wouldn't. Fez, if you knew half the stuff the way that you feel about it, you would be making this stuff. You would be creating these characters yourself. Your job is to enjoy or to get annoyed by the work that they do, but you're not asked to create it. Or you'd be doing that kind of work. There's plenty of people who go out and do this.
Fez, if I could ask you this, is there any way that you can concede that because of the exclusion of the Riddler, that this film will be as bad as the shit piles that Joel Schumacher put out there?
I don't know that, but it's good. To me, it feels already ruined because it doesn't have the Riddler in it. I was imagining sitting in the theater watching this film.
Here's the word that you always use, and this always gets you into... and thanks a lot, Andy. This is one of the things that happens to you. Just because something feels doesn't mean that that's true. You're not giving us an intellectual reason for it. You're saying it feels bad to you, and you're angry or scared or upset or whatever the things that you are. And just because you feel it doesn't mean anything to it. Now, if people bring up radio to me, and they'll run in and go, oh, you want to do this with Fez or cut Fez or do this? You know, so I'll normally read the stuff that if they're going to take the time to email me. But if somebody in the industry, if Opie came to me with it or Jeremy Coleman, then I would look at it from a far different way because I'm like, these people know how to do radio. And the fact is, this is the way you're going to come off to Warner Brothers, is a passionate, slightly crazy fan. Fan is short for what?
Fanatic.
Right. And when you're fanatical, you're not exactly thinking straight. Whether you're going to be fanatically positive or fanatically negative. And you went from crazy fanatically positive to now fanatically negative. But it's not going to mean anything to the creative people because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The only part you know about it is you know how to read it, you know how to watch it, you know how to comment on it, but you don't know how to make it.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't have an opinion as a fan.
Well, you don't have an opinion because it hasn't come out yet. Your time to have the opinion is when the work comes out. Then you could say, this blew. But we don't know whether it blows or not. We have no fucking idea of whether everything that you are saying is wrong and then whether or not it's right. We'll have to wait until the product comes out. The chances of it is probably going to be worse because I don't think most people would be able to top what he did with the Joker. It seems like it's impossible. If he walked away now, he'd be the hero. Be like, he's unfucking-livable. And they'd be asking for him to come back no matter what happened. Richard, St. Louis, Sherman and Fez.
What's going on, Ronnie?
Yeah.
This is why Fez will never be in a relationship. He has no loyalty. He will turn on somebody on a dime. Elton John, Christopher Nolan, these are people that have brought him his favorite movies, have done so much for the community, and in a flash, he will turn on somebody and throw them to the wolves. It's crazy.
It is interesting that some of these people that give you your most pleasure, you turn on. Christopher Nolan, Elton John, Ron Bennington. 3 people who have said, we want to make you feel better, Fez, and you go like this. How can I get even with them?
Malin!
I'll get some juice.
Truly, there's some candy in my purse. I have some up here. Shelby, hold on. Clary's getting you some juice. Shelby. Should I get her a cookie? No, juice is better.
Power, profit, and passion.
Offer limited to God and godlike deities. Get very excited and speak in tongues.
Bob, actually, that's a stage direction. I think you're supposed to, get all excited and blah, blah, speak in tongues like that.
That'll be fun.
That's all right. Mistake.
Take 2. Offer limited to God and godlike deities.
Bingo, that was the one, Bobby. That was great. All right, now let's knock these other ones out, voiceover king, before we go to lunch, okay?
All right. Yeah. To win, you must be 18 and come in first place.
Great, moving on.
Offer expires now.
Zippity-doo-dah, next.
Not to be confused with the disease, cancer.
Zippity-yay, moving on.
Harvard's Memory Loss Clinic, established in 1952, 1967, and for the first time in 1981.
That was a goodie, Bob. We're moving on. We're going to do that disclaimer about the John Tesh album. You got that?
Okay.
Should be on the page there, Bob.
Sure.
Okay.
Not suitable for any living thing.
They mean it, too. That Red Rocks thing is awful. Moving on.
Mr. Pickle's Fun Time Abortion Clinics. We'll bring out the kid in ya.
I smell lunch. One more and we're out of here, baby doll.
All right. Globochem. We own everything, so you don't have to.
Well, I've invented a pill that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
For shame, Doc. Hunting rabbits with an elephant gun.
Elephant gun?
That's right, Doc. So why don't you go shoot yourself an elephant? You do, and I'll give you such a pinch!
We're going to start our volleys. We hope you like the show. For everything is ready. We're raring to go. We'll give you all the latest songs and dances full of pep. We're gonna start with high chops. Just watch this chorus steps.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fantastic Comics Presents, number 81. Whoa, there came a Breen. We'll get into that in just a moment. My name is Ewell Carter. For those of you that are new to the show or just tuning in for the first time, I am a guy that talks about comics every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. I also try and share some things with you may not have known about. Case in point, that opening scene talking about fandom was from a radio show called Ron and Fez. And this very, very wonderful person on YouTube named Not Jay Leno is doing a 24/7 running of clips from the Ron and Fez show because Fez died last week and it came out over the weekend. And, a lot of people are really upset about that. And there was a time when I listened to the show, I was laid up. There was I did conventions for the store I worked at, Comic Relief. And I made it through the entire convention. I can't remember which one, whether it was San Diego and I worked loading the truck or unloading the truck or whatever it had to be, or WonderCon, which was local, but sometimes you're actually moving more stuff. So, you know, it was tough either way. And I made it through the whole weekend and did what I had to do. And then I went home after working and I felt great. And I went to sleep that night. And then I woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't know how, when you're not moving, you know you can't move. But I couldn't. And that was for like a month where I was just laying in bed. And I was reading Automatic Kafka. Here, I got a picture of that so you can see what it looks like. By Joe Casey, Ashley Wood, and it was really trippy stuff, which was great because my frame of mind, you know, in like a room, Jill's off to work or school. And I'm alone with my thoughts most of the time. And I had some comics I was reading, but these were some pretty nutty comics and way more strange than you would expect, like a superhero kid comic book to be. But Joe Casey, wonderful, wonderful author. And I also listened to some radio because I had Sirius, and while it was XM at the time. And, you know, listening to music's fine and all, but you kind of want to like have stimulating conversation and you're like stuck. And, you know, so you're listening to like radio, and Ron and Fez was really great. And I think that clip was very, very much something you can take, you know, in today's climate with conversation about comics and pop culture and just about anything. You know, how much do you really know? When are you supposed to make a decision on it? There's a lot of people that have knee-jerk reactions to, you know, oh, there's an art piece that came in from a comic book that nobody has read yet. And, you know, let's just keep it comics right now. What's going to go on for tonight's show? Well, first, let's say, all right, we'll do this. So tonight's show, we're going to hopefully get through a few conversation pieces. Substack has been on the warpath, signing a bunch of comic book creators, and today some really big names were announced. It has been talked about over the weekend how there is a ton. I mean, everybody that watches the show knows that from time to time I'm going to say something, or me on any other show, I'm going to say something about Batman being in abundance, and it no more than this last order form illustrates that. It's so crazy. We're going to have Eric Breen on, and hopefully we're going to take a trip down to Mother's basement and talk about Iron Man 149 and 150. Not hopefully, we're going to do it. First, let's, I had it. I was doing so good. I have it all right here. Let's say hi to everybody.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
So I'm Yule. I own a comic book store. That's the thing that separates me from a lot of other comic book YouTube shows out there. I am actually, I'm thick in it, is what it is. And I tell you what I think as a fan and also as a comic store owner. And I have guests on to do that also with me. Not that they're necessarily owners of stores, and sometimes they're creators and just fun people. So we're going to get to talking with Eric in just another second. If you are at all interested, you can go to our website. Don't go to fantasticcomics.net. It's .com now, and that takes you to our Shopify store. Oh, how embarrassing. Let's do that right now. Fantastic Comics. Wow, this is on the fly. I'm doing this. Think about that, everybody. Right there. That phone number counts. I'm not there, so don't call. But tomorrow at 12 Pacific time till 5 o'clock. Also, we're thinking about changing our days. Tuesdays kind of stink, and if I'm going to keep getting DC Comics on Tuesdays when I should be at the store, it probably would behoove us to be open an extra weekend day. So I've really been thinking about Sundays anyway. Any of you in chat that go to comic book stores, let me know what you think. Are you more likely to shop on a Sunday or a Tuesday? Bearing in mind, I'm up until 5. So, you know, work sometimes doesn't play a role. And I don't know. I think most people are really still, for the most part, in tune with going in on Wednesdays. Well, again, that'll be something we'll ask Eric. Did I say what's up, everybody? I think I did. Let's do it one more time.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
that was a good time. Anyway, way early in the day, You Murdered That Guy loves back issues. I know this to be true. And oh my gosh, to Hillam 29. Good to see you also. Eric's here. Yes, I know. And Fantinuum. And Jilby Pill's in the other room. She's the reason why I did that whole juice thing from that movie, Steel Magnolias. That's right. Corey's here. Excellent. And Dave Johnson. Fez used to be on Ron and Ron radio show here in Tampa Bay area in the 80s. Yeah, I know of that. I have not really listened to a lot of it or been able to, but I know there's a lot of the chat rooms for the Ron and Fez show were so everybody was so old school. You know, those dick card numbers. They flaunt them. They flaunt their dick cards. Sci-fi and fantasy is here. I love Ron and Fez, man. Ron Bennington, man. I haven't listened to his stuff since those days when I had XM, but he's a very thoughtful, and I love the way he cusses. He just does it so perfectly. Sorry you're late, please. Storyboards by Stuff Pop. What's up? Yeah, it was a pretty good free comic book day. A lot of people came by, and we obviously harassed some people that walked by with, forcing some comic books on them. But it was cool. I had a helper that is a customer of the store, and that's always good to rile me up to be more inclined. When you have somebody that doesn't work the store every day, they're not as jaded, and they influence a jaded soul as mine, and I can be a lot happier. Although there was a couple of curt times, but a couple isn't so bad. No, I will be sharing my screen in just a moment when we bring in the guests. I don't know. It's when I'm all alone and it's just my big old face on there. It just feels weird. But here's how I used to look when I was young. Oh my goodness. You can judge me now. All right, one last one. I wonder why most shops close at 5 when most people's workday ends at 5. Why not open till 7? I'm in a kind of I am in a residential area. There's me, and then across the street there's an old dude who does a print. You know what? I'm gonna share screen. Let me just bring this up so you can see it. Oh man, it's embarrassing. Oh, you don't have to see it. I'll just bring it up like this. So across the street, this is what we see. I'm not making fun of anybody. A lot of people stop and take pictures. So usually this will be like a sign that talks about some certain president's war crimes. And a lot of times it was all about like Obama and drone strikes and other stuff. And a lot of people come and either mess with their stuff that they put up, which I think is not cool. It's obviously a sore subject with some people, whatever this person brings up, but it's not usually anything too offensive. It's just, anyway, this is a residential area. A lot of people walk by. So being open too far past 5 where I am, I don't know if it's plus I want to get home. It's my end of my work day also. Traffic would be better. Driving, maybe that would, I don't know, that's a thing. Anyway, let us do this. Welcome our guest to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman here is one of the phenomena of the world. He looks no older than Mr. Sean, and yet he is 2,000 years old. Is that true, sir?
Yes. You want to see my driver's license?
No. We have it authenticated. The Mayo Clinic has checked you out and said that you are 2,000.
Eric Breen, how's it going?
Good evening.
The 2,000-year-old man, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. That was a heck of a montage there at the beginning. And am I a little out there when I'm watching the little kids starting the Follies and going, they've probably all died of old age?
I don't know if they all did. But Beretta's still alive, right?
Oh,
he was one of the last Little Rascals, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Not
his wife isn't alive, but Beretta's still alive. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Robert. No, I think Robert Blake is still alive. Hi, Eric. How are you? Nice to meet you here on this show.
Well, I'd like to thank the people that were too busy to show up tonight that allowed me the opportunity to, be here with you tonight.
That's right. You usually are on every freaking night. Like your time is being monopolized by Angleteam, correct? That's on the I Love Comics channel.
Not so much anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I at this point, I kind of consider myself a poor man's Joe Corallo.
Yeah. What do you write?
Well, I said I was a poor man's.
Oh, I see. Very good. So he's making good money, is what you're telling me.
You can't swing a live stream without hitting Joe.
I know. I'm just joking. Playing along. Yeah, Joe's out there. Is that because, do you have a YouTube channel at all?
I do. I've got 8 whole videos. I haven't made one in about 6 months, but I think I'm going to do one this week. I just do haul videos when I,
excellent.
Back issues I've picked up. Yeah.
I love haul videos. Those are fun. Those are really fun.
Yeah, those are my favorite ones to do and to watch, because I can sit there and watch somebody show, comics all day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. While you're reading comics, right? Or filing, or yeah. Do you bid on comics online? Do you have all the comics you need, or do you still have to collect?
Oh, well, I at one point had every Marvel comic from Fantastic Four #1 through Siege.
Wow.
And I had to sell about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself I wasn't going to get back into collecting. I didn't listen to myself. And, at least for the old Marvels, they have trades, and so I've got all those. I've got the stories in trades, and then I'll pick up the occasional older books if there are ones that I really liked and can still afford.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of grown again, and I'm a lifer. I
do it also. I mean, I was almost thinking about it earlier today, thinking about just getting rid of everything, because like it's amassing, it's becoming that time where it's exploding. But I'm not doing it if I do it to make money necessarily, just to find a home for it. But holy cow. I don't know. It's such a weird world. I feel like on one hand, I'm trying to get what I need to get physically, because I can't trust whatever is going to be offering it to me later on to be available, whether it be like trade collections or original prints or whatever it may be. Because, something might get edited from a streaming service, or something just might not get reprinted, or it might get reprinted in a way that it's got crappy coloring, it's hard to be a fan sometimes, right?
Well, there's also, you're starting to see content, your past content being edited so as not to offend modern audiences.
Sure.
And that's, I'm against that, because I believe that the work needs to be presented. If it's offensive, you present it as it is, to remind people why we don't do that anymore.
Right.
And for those that like the stories as they were intended, they get it. But as far as the streaming services, you're right. I mean, you never know when titles will get pulled. And like I said, if you have I tell people, hold on to your physical copies, because that's the only way for sure you have access to them going forward.
Right. So is that why you're collecting all that stuff again? I mean,
no,
it's just the bug, right?
Yeah, I'm one of those idiots that, I'll get the books, I'll bring them home. I've got, I'd never put my stuff on a computer program. I do all my records by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I love going through and like writing the numbers in their little cubes. And And when it was all trades and omnibuses and stuff like that, I would have indices on the side telling me where I could find the issues. And I realized I'm not smart enough to keep track of all that either. But it's just that part's fun. Getting the books, reading them, bagging them, backing them, putting them. Yeah, it's part of being a collector. I mean, I've always been a collector of some sort, and it just I started when I was 13. I'm 59 now. If I haven't quit yet, I'm probably not going to.
So you're slightly older than me. Usually I'm one of
everybody.
Yeah, I know, but not much, because usually I'm the older guy in the room, I find. What was your first comic? What was your first comic experience? How did that happen?
Well, first let me say I do a show on Wednesday nights, and we've kind of named ourselves the Four Color Fossils. I'm the oldest one.
You're the oldest one.
Now, if I'm on an England teen stream, I don't mind. If you're the oldest in a show called with fossils in the title, that's a concern. Now, now let me see if I can remember that far back. Now, when I was a kid, a couple times I remember picking up a Justice League 91 at a drugstore because Batman was carrying Flash. And I think I remembered Batman from the TV show because I was a little kid when that was on, but I'm sure I saw some episodes. And then I think I might have bought another book here and there. But I was into baseball cards as a kid, baseball cards and monster magazines. And I went to a baseball card convention, and some guy was selling a couple comic books. And I bought Spider-Man 31 and 34 for probably $1 a piece. Tell you how long ago that was. That was 1975, I think. And then I go, hey, these are kind of cool. And my brother started getting into them. And you like a lot of times you emulate your older brother. So I started going to drugstores and picking up the new stuff. Started small, just kind of grew from there, and sold a collection for beer money, as most 16-year-olds will do. I don't advocate underage drinking, by the way. And
it's just something that happens. We all know.
It leads to not remembering 2 years of your life, but that's a tale for another time. And I started the next week. I was buying off the spinner rack again, and that one I kept until I had to sell in 2014. So it's.
So did you? So you got all of the Fantastic Four. You said one and on, and you had to sell all of that.
Yeah, Spider-Man, Avengers.
Oh, even
all of it. Oh, I had every Marvel comic.
Every Marvel. So were you a Marvel kid mostly? You said you started with Justice League, but
I had every DC. The only DC Silver Age key I was never able to get was Showcase 4. But I had every other key. I mean, I had the 3 Brave and the Bold Justice Leagues. Now, they weren't all in the greatest conditions in the world.
Sure.
In fact, like my Hulk #1 had a BB hole through his head. Fortunately, the exit wound was on the back cover, but I had it. So, but I was Marvel and DC, and then I branched out into indies. And when there were no longer any books I could afford, for superheroes for Marvel, I had to go back to the golden age. Couldn't really afford that. So in comes the war, Westerns, romance, sci-fi, all that. I mean, I had everything.
Did you ever do Archie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even Archie, huh?
Always keeping Archie.
Really? All right. Excellent. Those covers are getting a whole.
Folks.
Pardon me?
I said that was not planned.
That was not planned, not at all. I find that those covers are getting a lot of play in the collector community right now, more so than, I don't know, at any time working in a store I've been at. Not that it's necessarily like funneling through me, but you notice a lot of people that are purchasing and selling those covers, and they're fantastic. Well, it's more than the cover, but it's for the cover.
Well, the older stories had bite. I mean, they were a bunch of mean kids,
right?
And then once the 70s hit, they all got a lot tamer, and really they went from being there truly did become for kids,
right?
But you could get something out of the older stories if you were older, because I said there's definitely, I said they were not a nice group of kids.
There was a lot more innuendo going on in those covers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we both know the one we're thinking of right now, where it's Archie's in the water and something about him having to. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the older those issues of Archie, I mean, it's hard to find those in like really great condition. And so when that happens, obviously they're usually slab, but they go for good money. Bravo, Archie. Bravo. So the reason why I asked you here is because on Thinking Critical this Saturday for the aficionados, there was talk in chat and a little bit on the show about artists and writers, who's important to comics, what's more important to comics. And I thought, you are like the guy that people have on other shows. You like you said, you get passed around like you're Joe Corello. And it's finally time that you're here. So welcome. But I thought, maybe you could shed some light. Maybe we could have a conversation about that. I also have a list of artists that are also writers. Obviously, when we think of the greats, a lot of times people think of Frank Miller. I don't know. It depends on what we're talking about when it comes to art and writing and the marriage of the two and how good a person is. These days, people talk about Sean Gordon Murphy, Todd McFarlane sometimes, depending on who's talking, Jeff Lemire. But those are other people. I'm actually interested in what you have to think. Firstly, how important does art play to Eric Breen when it comes to the comic book as opposed to the writing? What are your favorite stories? And is it mostly because of the art? Or is it mostly because of the writing? How do you feel about that?
Okay, first I'll say, as far as if you're going into something cold, if you don't know who the writer or artist is per se, it's the art that's going to get the book pulled off of the shelf. Then, unless you sit there and read it, that's what's going to get it to the counter.
Mm.
But art alone won't keep you there, because if it was, Image would have stayed huge. And I realize there are other factors as to why they sold so well, but that there has to be something to go with the art at some point, or you're eventually going to lose interest, or at least I will. Because there's an age-old debate. Would you buy a book with terrible writing and great art? And would you also buy a book with great writing and terrible art? Which one would you hang with longer?
Mm-hmm.
My answer would probably be great writing, terrible art.
Yeah. I always wanted to break into comics. I always wanted to be a writer of some sort. So I kind of naturally, tend to lean towards the writer anyway. When Image was going, there was a real significant war between writer and artist, especially when it was like Peter David, against the Image guys. I remember some other people, but, it was mostly him. And I don't know. I kind of felt like, even though like sometimes my favorite story is, again, like Frank Miller, doing Sin City or Daredevil. Those are guys that can like kind of like earn their stripes to the point where they're actually allowed, or they fought for it and they proved their point and they are where they are now. But when it was the Image guys, it wasn't so great. I mean, Todd McFarlane as a writer is pretty it's not very good, I don't think.
As a writer, he used to be a heck of an artist.
He used to be a heck of an artist, exactly. He really wrote words around the pictures that he drew.
Well, and for a time, that was enough, because the Spider-Man, the Michelini-McFarlane team up on Spider-Man produced some of the best comics in that title's history.
Mm-hmm.
The solo McFarlane effort blew it away sales-wise. Because, I mean, I said the comics were at their apex as far as sales, speculating, blah, blah, blah. But let's be honest, it was not a well-written book.
No, not really. I don't ever fault anybody for liking something that I don't. It's perfectly okay, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, hey. And I'm not really picking on Spawn. It's just easy to go right now since we're kind of like talking about Image. But there's been many a time when an artist says like, I'm gonna write. I'm not gonna. It was like Frank Miller. He was working with Mackenzie at the time, and then there's guys like Romita Jr. or Romita, I guess, and they never really even sniff writing. It seems like they never really want to, or maybe they were never offered, but they seemed content to do what they were doing.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming in Romita Senior and Junior's case, Romita was at DC forever doing their romance comics, and when Stan brought him over to Marvel, I'm sure he had a hand in plotting, and that was probably enough for him. He became the art director, so I'm sure that wasn't what he wanted to do. Some people, again, it's not easy to do both. And some people, if they try to stretch themselves to do both suffer. I mean,
Right.
as much as I love John Byrne, his best art was in the second half of the 70s, teamed with Claremont on Iron Fist, Marvel Team Up, and then the X-Men. And then with the one exception being Man of Steel and the early Supermans. That was where the writer and artist John Byrne put it all together. I think the art on that was better than any of the Fantastic Fours or She-Hulk.
Did he had like Dick Giordano inking him on Superman, if I'm not mistaken, right?
And I'm sure that was a huge help.
Yeah. I mean, when he has Terry Austin and Dick Giordano, it helps. I could be wrong because I don't usually think too much about who the inker is unless they ruin the book. But I'll go out on a limb and say that's who it was. That's my final answer.
It was.
On the fly again. Let's see here. Okay. I'm ignoring that. But art, man, how do you get past? The thing about art is that it is so subjective. There's this piece going around right now. Partially it's because of the writing, but it's of Marvel Boy. It was out on the internet, the social media.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't exactly see why everybody's so up in arms about it, but the image of it looks very Liefeldian, actually, like a very proportioned Liefeld art. So I thought it was actually pretty good. But people get really crazy about something before they read it or get the full context of stuff like that. Do you think we just get so overboard that we can't allow ourselves to like what's new? Or do we get so old? Like I remember guys at the comic book store, the old people, they were like, they couldn't stand Keith Giffen and Maguire and DeMatteis Justice League, a funny Justice League. No, this isn't good. Old timers.
It's those of us that have been around forever, and you can probably relate to this. Going to comic book shops back when when the arguments were around the comics themselves,
right?
You would have the people that would, I don't read superhero stuff. I read Sandman.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I just wanted to go up to them and said, "Hey guys, see the other side of that door? They're shoving all of us in our lockers." So it just seemed kind of silly, but it also showed. I said, But the passionate arguments, yeah, I was always in favor of those. But the snobbery that would go back and forth, yeah, it's like it just that never made sense to me. But and anybody that didn't like the Giffen, DeMatteis, McGuire Justice League, I can't help you, because that
Can't
was
help you.
I mean, that was, remember, if the Justice League with all the big characters were so great, they'd have still been published. They wouldn't have become the Justice League Detroit and then wouldn't have to get killed off one at a time like an Agatha Christie novel to make way for the new team and Legends.
Justice League Detroit, they're trying to make a comeback because I think of the Flash television series had Vibe in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, sometimes collecting is about how scarce something is, and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's like, I need that last issue of something, whether it's to complete a run or some storyline happened and you need to get it, or you're just like, man, this is like, it's not easy to find, so I'll just pick it up anyway. But Justice League Detroit.
I like Justice League Detroit.
Really?
Yeah.
You were the one.
There's one other one. I forgot who he was. Because the Justice League up to that point had kind of just, Justice League's always been a title that, it looks good on the cover, but there really weren't any great Justice League stories. I mean, the JSA JLA team ups were fun, but it was basically just two people would go off and fight somebody. They never really come together. But by the time the book got decent, and you have to say, I don't know, in the one when Englehart took over, that's why they brought him in. They said they wanted him to come over and fix the Justice League. This was 1976-7.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'll do it if you let me write Batman. And that gave us that run on Detective that I gush about every chance I get. But from that point forward, it was good, but never really great. And so the Justice League Detroit was trying something new. And, it wasn't as Jerry Conway is a very good writer. So if he writes it, at least the stories will be good. But I think a lot of people just couldn't get past a lot of the new characters. Although I will say, if he'd written Vibe the way he was in the Flash TV series, that character might have gone over better than he did.
I think that costume wasn't doing him any help either.
No, it was. I think it was Electric Boogaloo 2 or whatever time, or Breaking 2, that era.
He has some funky sunglasses too, if I'm not mistaken. I just I couldn't get with Justice League Detroit, and even Martian Manhunter, wasn't he like leading it for a long time, or most of that time?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. He was saddled with a bad group. The poor guy his team is like, he's got a lady that's barefoot, and now we can't even say her name.
You can't?
No, I'm just joking. We can say Gypsy. That was her name. Yeah, I don't know. But Justice League International, or JLI, Justice League, whatever you want to call it, those were some great times, and I loved that. Keith Giffen, I didn't put him on my list. He's definitely a guy I would read, whether he's doing the art or doing the writing. I usually, even if he's like doing somebody else's book, I'll pick it up. Like when Paul Levitz was doing Legion not so long ago. It was long ago now, but there would be like a Keith Giffen annual or issue or something like that. So he's a guy I follow artistically and also for his writing.
I do remember in 1976, he was doing the art on the Defenders, and Klaus Janson was the inker.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, this guy is incredible, until the first issue that Janson didn't do. I went, holy, what is this? It took some getting used to, and now I'm there. I mean, I've completely come. I think he's one of the most talented guys the industry's ever seen.
One of my all-time favorites for sure. I've got boxes of just his junk, and if there's always something like a Marvel premiere that he did an issue of or something. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know. I have to get that. So yeah, let's go through a few people here and see what you think. If you separated this artist-writer combo of a person and you took away their art, would you read their book? Okay. So right. I'll do, I feel like it's an easy one. Frank Miller, since we talked about, would you read a book that he doesn't do art on? Let's say at their height, even.
Yes.
I mean, let's not take them at their worst. Let's like think about them in the most pristine way imaginable.
Now, that's an interesting question, because most of Frank Miller's greatest, well, maybe all of his greatest writing, he did the art as well. But yeah, fantastic writer. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. What about John Byrne? How do you feel about him?
Again, kind of the same thing, but yes. Well, John Byrne, to me, is the greatest expounder the industry's ever seen. If you think about it, he didn't really create any great characters per se, but he took existing ideas and just found ways to make them better.
Well, I guess it depends on what kind of creator you are. For there's a lot of people talking about Substack and people moving on and doing stuff today. Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman announced that they're going to be doing stuff for Substack. They're also going to still be doing stuff for Marvel, or at least Donnie Cates is. More and more people are doing stuff for companies that don't necessarily put out comics physically. They're making their careers at the big two, I guess, maybe possibly, and then they're going in with their fame, in some ways forming a little image, whether it be crowdfunding or Substack paying them a lot of money to create or own their stuff. Image Comics has been doing this for a long time. Other companies have had to play ball. I guess Dark Horse at one time was like very onerous when it comes to taking your stuff over to them, but they've had to ease up. Only Marvel and DC seem to be really dickish, and now DC just announced something they're doing digitally. I don't know if there's like creator-owned aspects in that, but probably not. So like but John Byrne, here's this guy that he's not creating something necessarily, but he's manipulating, the things that actually exist out there, and he's like growing it and introducing it to a new audience. I feel like there was a time when a new Fantastic Four writer would come in and, here's my Doctor Doom story, and here's my Galactus story, and Silver Surfer's going to come in here, and all this Mr. Mole or Mole Man. Not necessarily. That's not really true, but it just felt like it was ultimately, here's my Watcher story, instead of making new guys, I guess. But isn't that the problem with creators, that they don't want to see their billion-dollar character go on the screen and not get paid from, these movie companies that don't care that you're doing it for the small, it's not really part of us, Marvel, except it is.
Yeah, I don't think that was a motivation in those days, because I don't think anybody could have foreseen what was to come.
Right.
And I guess I might have done Mr. Byrne a bit of a disservice. I know he created some of the characters in Alpha Flight because he did the first couple years of that. So, but as far as like, it's funny the way you were rattling off the Fantastic Four stuff. I never thought of it that way necessarily, but you are right. However, he told the best versions of those stories since Lee and Kirby.
Sure.
And kind of maybe updated them for a newer audience that maybe hadn't read all of those yet. And he did it without dishonoring what had come before. I mean, like, I have a huge problem with Squirrel Girl one punching Galactus and being told that's in the same continuity as Fantastic 450, where they use the ultimate nullifier to get him, not to beat him, but to get him to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love that run, and I thought, to me, it was very respectful of Stan and Jack. But that is interesting though, the way you laid that out.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just going off with what you said. I mean, something I had thought about before, and it's just like, if it's a writer that I'm not really into, it just feels kind of boring, and it's like very paint by numbers. And sometimes those writers, if they're not, the artists that are working on it, they're not necessarily up to the same quality all the time. These really great people that we're talking about. What do you think about Walt Simonsen? Because I know that and I'm not throwing any shade at Sal Buscema, but when he did an issue, I was more likely to not want to read the Thor issue. He did great work on Defenders, but for some reason his Thor just didn't sing to me.
Okay, a huge Simonsen fan.
Yeah, huge Simonsen fan here too.
Yeah, his art was unique, and we got so used to it on Thor. I mean, because I remember him back from the Manhunter series
with Archie Goodwin,
yeah, Detective Comics, and and when he took an issue off, I remember they did a Hercules story, and Jack Geis was the fill-in artist, who I also love. But it was just so, you realize just how used we were to Simonsen. And then when he ended up leaving the book as the artist, and Sal took over for that last year, trying to make it look as much like Walt as he could, which I'm sure he was asked to do that. I do kind of see, let's say I don't really remember those stories, but as well as I remember the Simonsen ones. So that, I could see that. But so would I read something that Walt wrote but didn't draw? I guess it would depend on what it was.
Yeah. I can't think of a time when I've actually really done that unless it's just like a fill-in issue. Because I kind of stepped out on Thor when he wasn't doing it, and I kind of I don't know. It's just one of those things. I've just kind of like, maybe they don't always put their all. It's just one of those things. I do find that the artists that I really like are also really good writers. I don't usually follow too many illustrators if they can't write. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm saying it the other way around. Maybe I really like writers because I like some writers and I don't care who's drawing it. I've put up with I've read a lot of Vertigo books. And when you read a lot of Vertigo books, you put up with a lot of ho-hum art sometimes, but the stories are good enough to get it past, as long as it just, it doesn't muddle it up. It usually works out pretty okay. Here's a question someone had. Has there ever been a Grant Morrison, Alex Ross team up? I can't think of any. Can you?
No.
Alex Ross is usually the guy in charge of the stories that he works on. The closest person I could think of would be J.G. Jones. They worked on Marvel Boy together. That was not planned. And I think he also did the covers for 52, which Grant Morrison was on with Keith Giffen and Mark Waid and a whole bunch of other people. You Murdered That Guy says Trencher is amazing. I agree. Trying to figure out those pages, and each issue or page number was written differently. I love that. And great conversation. Yeah, man, I like talking comics. Thanks for coming on, Eric. Let's see. Let me see. Loved most Byrne.
I can't recall that existing.
Doomsday +1, though, I do have all those issues from Charlton. I think the first issue, I pressed a guy's comic. The first issue that John Byrne worked on was Charlton, and it was for Emergency. I think it was the first issue of Emergency. So we think that's the first John Byrne issue, or that's what I was told. Jack Parsons broke this dimension. I'm not okay. Still here. Excellent. Oh, excellent. Okay, very good. Well, as long as you're listening, if you can, or inclined to do it, maybe hit thumbs up and let someone know. If you're at all interested and want to throw in your 2 cents after the fact, leave a comment. That'd be wonderful. Eric, let's talk about Iron Man. Are you down with that?
Sure.
All right, cool. Let me I put it right up here. Let's do this.
Here! I'm down here! Down here!
Mr. Sheldon?
All right, we're taking a trip down to Mother's basement.
I don't think I've seen that intro before.
That's a new one. I just came up with that one today. I'm just bringing up the picture. All right, I'm going to turn my screen off because I'm camera shy when it comes to doing this. I'll read your comments on my phone. Yeah, let's do it that way. Also, share screen. Oh, I forgot to share the invite with my co-star. All right. We're going to talk about Iron Man number 149, and we're going to talk about number 150. Had you read these before, Eric?
Yeah, I bought them new. Not sure I've read them since until yesterday.
I had to have bought this. I was 11 when this came out. You're 8 years older than me. I remember this when it came out. I read this probably a bunch of times because that's how we did it. You know, we traded a lot of times. So you had to read it fast and as much as you could. And then unless you really, really liked it, you probably traded it for something else at school. And that's how a lot of the comics I read. I didn't really like Iron Man, but this is like one of my favorite Iron Mans of all time. This issue 150. I never read 149, and recently in a buy, I got some really mangled copies, as you can tell right here, of 149 and 150. That's slightly nicer, but this one's mangled. So I clip some pictures that will tell the story. We don't really have to go over it beat by beat, but if you want to mention something about what you see, or if there's something that you want to ramble about when it comes to this,
all right,
feel free. Up first, we have the thing about these old ass comics. A lot of collectors are really big on all white pages. This is not all white, and when you get to some of the words, it's really hard to read it or make out what's going on in the picture. But this one, so this book right off the bat, written by David Michelini, who's done some of my favorite comic books. For me personally, this is probably I already said this is my favorite Iron Man issue, so I'm going to say he's my favorite Iron Man writer. Would you agree with that, or do you have another guy?
My favorite writer is his successor.
That was the Denny O'Neil issues. Now, Denny O'Neil had a lot of Luke McDonnell during those times, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. And a friend of mine were arguing about this, right before we went on the air.
Oh, really?
And because he's Team Mule. And,
he doesn't like Luke McDonnell either, huh?
Oh, but he likes the Michelini run better than the O'Neil.
Oh, okay, very good.
But I conceded that Michelini, who I also love, I mean, going back to his Aquaman on Adventure Comics.
I didn't know he did those.
Yeah.
All right.
Michelini had better art. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is one of those situations, Maybe if Denny O'Neil had John Romita Jr. instead, I think I've enjoyed John Romita as soon as he was on Spider-Man. So he's been probably one of my all-time favorite artists that has worked in the business. Definitely one that is only an artist.
Oh, his 80s and 90s. His first story was a Spider-Man Annual 11. He had a story in that.
Dang. And he created the Prowler too.
Well, hold on a second. That'd be his dad.
Well, his dad said that he did it off of a drawing that
really?
John Romita Jr. drew. Yeah.
I guess he must have been a little tyke back then. And you say that, and he's in his mid-60s now.
Dude, and he still looks so good. Well, I mean, any picture I saw that's recent, this could be a few years ago, but
yeah, his Marvel stuff in the 80s and 90s were very, very good.
Yeah. Of course, a lot of people didn't really like John Romita Jr. Like his stuff is like very, very Marvel of the time. Maybe more slick, but I don't know. This is some good Bob Layton working on him too. Being able to do a double-sized issue after this issue, and probably did a whole bunch before and after. John Romita, man, he is just. I'm sorry. Every time I say it, JR Jr. is just, man. He's been my entire Marvel life pretty much, and his whole career is like my reading, and I dig him. So what's going on here is that Iron Man is busting up this shipment of Stark Enterprises machinery that's going over to Latveria. Is that what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so he busts this up, and he has a meeting, and it's all, he's all getting ready. And so I love these little flashbacks that they do. They make sure to let you know about who this person is that's affecting his life right now, Bethany Cabe. They tell issue numbers when things are referencing other things like they'll do later on in this issue. And it really makes me want those things that are beforehand if I care about this. And it just it ties me into all the stuff that's gone on before without having to deal with it also. Michelini, man, he knows how to write these books, these comics, these style.
Yeah, I love the scene. I love this scene in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the pompous guy bragging about the money he made off of that sale.
Oh yeah, and Stark's like, yeah, but the stuff's going to like Dr. Doom in Latveria, and he's all, yeah, but he fires him.
He just, he's not on his way to the gym.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, he says there's going to be a severance check.
Yeah,
so
he's on his way to the bar.
I love it. It's a generous severance check, though. So, he's not going to just throw him out. He's still going to make a lot of money.
Well, but, he knew Stain was going to have it all in 20 issues anyway. So what do you think?
Very good. All right. Oh, I didn't do a good clip here. Dr. Doom is here. He's in the past is what's going on here. He's learning magic from this mystic in the past, correct?
I believe so, yes.
All right, excellent. Dr. Doom, oh man, I can't believe I did that. So this dude here has it in for Dr. Doom because Doom killed his brother in like an issue of Fantastic Four. Probably a little ways away. It was issue 85 at the time.
Yeah, and that Hauptmann, I believe, had been in other books, so they didn't just pull this out of left field.
So yeah, I looked him up because when you're reading these issues, you're like, well, did something happen with this character? Because if you're the next Donny Cates, this is the character that could be. But he doesn't survive. He doesn't survive. Again, we have this little introspection about what's going on. Iron Man's like waiting for someone from Latveria on Dr. Doom's side to come for the missing components because they didn't get delivered. And Iron Man gets captured. I thought I did all this stuff. How embarrassing. I like the ads though. That makes it good. When I clip this will look nicer. Iron Man. I think also, and you'll see in the next issue, the best way to attack Iron Man as far as a reader is concerned, I think is right here. Him getting constricted. Anytime he might even possibly be stuck in that armor is possibly the worst thing that can happen to Tony Stark as far as the reader's concerned. It lends a claustrophobia. I think that's Iron Man's most dangerous threat to the reader. What do you think about that?
I've never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, the suit powers down and he's waiting for it to boot back up, just as like some titanium man type dude is going to swing at him and he can't move. And, that's like, oh my God, he's like stuck in that armor. Did you ever read Earth 2?
No.
Or wait, no, not Earth 2. Jesus Christ. Earth X, I mean. Is that what it is? Earth X?
I didn't read any of the X.
Oh, wow. That one is quite interesting. The whole key to Tony Stark is that he is in the center of this building. He's kind of like a Howard Hughes type character, and he doesn't want any like germs or anything on him. But when he has to finally be called into action, you find out that this apartment complex building, that tower that he's living in, is actually the Iron Man suit that he's in. And he goes to town. It's pretty cool.
That's interesting.
And I didn't do any of this. Tony Stark gets so I guess Doom is not in charge of Latveria, and these people are actually giving Tony directions on where he has to go, because they know that wherever Tony is, Iron Man's close behind.
Yeah, it's King Rudolfo at the time, I believe.
I see. What's the deal with him? Do you know?
I believe it might have been from after Fantastic Four 200, I think. No, that's...
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm trying to get the timelines. He was deposed at some point, and that might have been... He might have gotten control and lost it again by this time, though. So I'm not really sure, but I know he wasn't in charge at the time. But he wasn't, but he was still very much present and just biding his time until he could get it back.
Right. Okay. Well, here is Castle Doom, and I'm only showing this because Tony finds out that this wall that's here is actually like concealing, is like a mirage, and he walks through. That'll play a role a little bit later on. Him and Doom meet up. Doom's all, where's the, you're the lackey. I want to talk to Tony. I don't talk to lackeys. And so they start fighting, as they do. This is some great action, though. I really enjoyed it. Again, here we have Tony getting smothered in his Iron Man suit until he busts out. Here they're fighting, and what they don't realize is that they're on top of this this platform, and this guy Hopman, who has it in for them, he transports them back in time, and they're gone forever, right? Because he's smashing up the machine. All right, now I did better. So this is the second issue, and like I said, this was what was it, 75 cents for this issue? I think it was. And it's double-sized, and John Romita Jr. is doing all the pencils, and Bob Layton is doing all the inks. He's probably finishing a lot of it. That's why he's able to get all this work out. But this is a fantastic image of them being catapulted through time. I really like the writing that goes along with all this. There's another scene later on where it really plays out well. It's perfect comic book writing and art, I think. And here they land. All right, now I'm going to try and do video to go along with this. They're just about to fight, and Iron Man's all, hey, take a look around. And Dr. Doom's Camelot, and Iron Man's all, Camelot. And the caption says, Camelot. That's right. It's only a model. I love this chainmail here of the guy grabbing Dr. Doom. Of course, they want them to kneel and Doom's not having any of it. This issue, man, it is. I think it's pretty action packed throughout. The last one was also. It just probably the way I clipped everything, it didn't seem quite so. So they're fighting. Tony has to, stop everything. And of course, Dr. Doom doesn't know that Iron Man is Tony Stark. Nobody knows. Even earlier when Rhodey dropped him off, I do believe he didn't know that. He didn't say anything about him being Tony. So they're going to go march in. They're in Camelot. They're going to meet King Arthur. Tony, Iron Man gives a demonstration of magic powers. And I like this line here. Ehrlich, we must sacrifice an extra toad tonight. Oh my God. What do you think about this? I mean, what do you think about like John Romita and these guys doing King Arthur? Are you a fan when people go back in time and, King Arthur is the subject of these superheroes?
It makes for a nice occasional story. I'm not a huge fan of, all things King Arthur, but when it's used in small doses like this, I do like it.
You know what trope I'm sick of more than like going back in time to King Arthur and whatnot is this is maybe that's a bad one to say because Nottingham's pretty good, but this is Robin Hood, but in space, or something like that, and it just doesn't do it. This is there was a World War II Peter Pan. I can't remember what that was. It was an Image comic book. I've been trying to think of it all day, and of course I don't look it up, but I'm just kind of sick of that. I'm sick of like Oz and but it's sexy chicks, not even then I'm not that into it. But King Arthur in 1981, I'm sure Excalibur was out by this time. I'm totally into Dungeons and Dragons. This was super up my alley. These guys couldn't do like all their superheroing in their armor. They had to like conserve their energy just a bit. It's like talked about. So, whatever aspect of Iron Man doesn't make me love him doesn't actually come across as much in these issues. But they're sent to their rooms. Tony's like looking out and he's like, oh, I'm a guy of the future. I like technology. There's nothing that would even satisfy me. I gotta get my ass home. And then this lady comes in and she's like, I've been ordered to come and be your escort. And then he's like, well, then again. Pretty cool, pretty funny. There's also a lady that comes to Doom's chambers, and of course the first thing he does is like hypnotize her, and he wants to know what he finds out the name of Morgana Le Fay. And we were talking about this earlier because it's just Morgan Le Fay if you're looking at Wikipedia. And then even Marvel later on, I think, calls her Morgan. But then I've also seen her called Morgana again. So I don't know. Also, here's a very rare instance. We don't see that very much these days of arrows directing us to where you're supposed to look. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that was a staple in the old days, and probably should never have gone away.
I love it, especially on a Bendis title. Can you imagine how I would have one of the reasons why I hate Bendis so much is because of all the pages I've reread. And I'm like, he never says anything different. I can just jumble up the panels and I shouldn't even have a problem figuring out what's going on, but I still go and, reread it. And that would have saved so much time in my life.
Well, Bendis saves me money.
You don't buy Bendis?
No.
Thinking Critical. The thing that made me love the channel is because of all the hatred for Bendis. Like I could go and I don't know, I could find a home. You know what I mean?
I'll defend him first decade of the 2000s, but
oh yeah, he's done some really great stuff. I highly recommend his Sam and Twitch that he did for McFarlane and Spawn. I think it's because of because of Bendis that Spawn was even relevant during those times.
Oh, I think the creative period that Marvel had from House of M through Siege, he had a lot to do with that. Now, the spin the bottle dialogue notwithstanding,
sure,
and the characters not being the characters we knew, but as far as just like the straight creativity, there's some really good stuff in those years, and he is largely responsible for it. So I'll never take that away from him. But it's just
he also
from there.
He also, it's like, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. He kind of, once you put Spider-Man and Wolverine on the Avengers, it's really hard to take that back.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that was his call.
Oh, it sounded like it. He defended it enough.
Well, but if you remember at the time, the Avengers had fallen so far that when they did the Avengers and the Ultimates, they didn't call them the Avengers.
Sure.
Think about how, and then 10 years later, every book they could shoehorn the Avengers into the title they were doing.
That's true.
And Bendis had a lot to do with that.
It did. Also, the X-Men being a Fox property helps, Spider-Man being Sony. But nonetheless, Doctor Doom escapes. This poor lady is catatonic. They could do a whole story in the past. She's like, maybe she finally comes out. This is the one character that's still alive that is like got something horrible that, you could play off there you go, Donny Cates right there. If you ever deem to come back to Marvel, you can check this lady out.
Well, if they brought her back into Iron Man, she'd probably just lecture Tony.
Oh my God, that Iron Man has so little Iron Man in it. I mean, I've read a lot of those issues too. It's crazy. One of my customers who is in the chat turned. He's all, there's like no Iron Man in here. Poor Iron Man. Anyway, we find out about Morgan Le Fay, who's the sister of Arthur, blah, yada, yada, yada. Iron Man's down for the fight. Here, this is the thing that they did over in Latveria. He has a fake castle kind of situation entrance. The drawbridge is down, and he suspects a trap. So he flies up to Le Fay's chambers, and she's sexy. He talks about why he wants her help, and she knew that he was coming, but she didn't know why. She knows he's out of time, and here he tells a story about his mother. Do you know this story about Dr. Doom's mother? Most people know about this. Is this still canon?
That's a good question. Did Bendis undo that? He undid everything else while he was there.
I don't know if anything was undone with her, but I know they've done stories since then. There was that Marvel graphic novel with Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom. I think Mignola did the art on that. I forget who the writer was. Maybe like Englehart or somebody.
I do remember the story. I mean, but I don't remember the writer either. I
wasn't as into Doctor Strange back then. I don't know. I stupidly thought he wasn't cool. But I always liked the art. So I got into it, and it's much better. It's much better as I've gotten older. Well, nonetheless, so what's up with his mother?
Well, she was I doomed to hell, and once a year he would go fight for her with, I think, maybe Mephisto or one of the Lords of Hell, but he was never able to free her. So that was one of his motivations, was to finally be able to find a way to bring his mother back.
Right. So that's the reason why he's coming back in time, so that he can learn from mystics. And here's Le Fay. And it is his. So when the dude transported him back in time, Hotman, there were already coordinates set. So the reason why they came back this time was planned originally to happen, just not get stuck here.
Yeah, and that was a good bit of writing because otherwise that would have been awfully random. Convenient to end up in exactly in the King Arthur era.
Yeah, exactly. So Dr. Doom's going to help her. She can't leave this tower, but she can raise an army of dead. And here is really good writing. Actually, I'm going to read this out. Okay. Dark words, dangerous words. See, here's where it slipped from lips as cold as hoarfrost, calling to ancient names, demanding favor, and receiving it as Dr. Doom's image shifts in the mystic mirror, changing to that of a distant, wind-cut boneyard, the scene of one of Arthur's greatest triumphs. And there, ageless serenity shatters, splintered by the soft scrabble of fingernails clawing clay, and by a sudden eruption of scrawny hands thrusting skyward. Bodies follow carcasses, yellow and rot, whose innards coil with nests of slithering things, and thus do they rise, swaying like careless marionettes, until slowly, leaving a trail littered with scraps of themselves, they shuffle forward, united by the strength of their singular purpose. And I just like the way how that flows. Like you got to go up and down. It's like it's leading the reader and the art. It's really playing well together. And it's not so over. It's a lot of words. You know, we make fun of Bendis, but it plays to the page. You know, I'm assuming this is all done by the Marvel way of, you know, doing a script where you tell the artist what you want to have happen and they're directing the scene and then you're writing over it.
Well, there's anybody that's read older comics knows that exposition was a major part of old time storytelling. And as time goes on, if you do it well, it doesn't matter how many words you use. But there's a difference between this and word vomit.
Yeah.
Which I believe is the term they use now. This says something. And as opposed to just endless,
you can say something with word vomit, but you have to say it within the voice of the character. If it's being done to give us information, it ain't happening.
In exposition, the exposition box is all but gone from comics anyway now, isn't it?
It is. It's always interior monologue. Yeah. And, you know, for a long time when I was done with comic books, but I was into literature, you know, a lot of it is, you know, first person narrative. You know, hopefully it's present tense, because if it's like a noir or it's always past tense. And, you know, the person that's telling me the story is alive, you know. It's like when I'm watching Magnum P.I., he's narrating the story. He's threatened with a gun at a commercial break. I know there's no problem because he's narrating the story at the end, you know. At least in the Dukes of Hazzard, there was a narrator. You know, that's the omniscient narrator. And so is this. And this is the way to do boxes as far as I'm concerned. I know I'm old.
Oh, I agree. I'm right there with you on that, but I'm older. So
yeah. And bring back the letters page, because there's not even one on this one, I don't believe. Anyway, look at this. I clipped it. Because who cares about some nobody screaming the fact that Dr. Doom's coming with the Undead Legion. I like how Arthur's like, well, I gotta go to do this thing right here, but Iron Man, Tony's like, I'm gonna hang on to the death also. Like, he's down. Just like that. Do you think he watches royal weddings also? I mean, kind of look at this guy. Are
you talking about Tony or
yeah,
Arthur?
Tony. I mean, Tony. Yeah, I just, you know, I'm down. I'm down for.
Well, he just seen Chuck and Di and Luke and Laura's, so that's 2 royal weddings in 1 year. That year.
I was just talking about Luke and Laura the other day, probably because Riker was involved. This is a great. Actually, there was another panel to this, but look at this. This is like Romita doing his best, like Conan the Barbarian story or something. He does later on go on and do like Thor, but it's with his Jansen style, so it's not like this anymore. But this is beautiful. Bob Layton is really helping him out. I feel like John Romita Jr. is still my favorite Iron Man artist. How do you feel about that? Ooh, are you a Bob Layton all the way? Bob Layton, ride or die?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm probably more of a fan of Layton, but I think this is a great combo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of good inkers that make great artists, but they're never like Dick Giordano. You know, he's a really good artist, but he's a much better inker,
right? I agree. But he also, yeah, it's hard when you look at all the times he inked guys like Neil Adams, Gil Kane, you know, John Byrne. So it's his art, definitely he's a much better artist than say Klaus Janson. But yeah, I said he was a guy that could do both, but I would sacrifice his pencils to get his inks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Klaus Janson's a better inker overall.
Absolutely.
He really he pretty much saved Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.'s careers, basically. He's awesome. Anyway, the fight's going on with these zombies, but it's not going so well, and Tony realizes that these guys are going after whatever Doom tells him, so he just slugs him and takes off, and Doom's like, all right, fine, take off. And Iron Man goes to Morgana Le Fay's, and here we go. I'm going to steal, since I've stolen Eric Breen from so many channels, I'm going to steal this bit from Perch. Intentional or not, Eric Breen, this is where we ask whether or not this was intentional by the author or was this not intentional. But here he says, good. Herr Doom was expecting a physical attack. Hopefully that'll throw him off balance long enough. But now here's the kicker. For me to get a head start on nailing his partner, was this intentional or not?
Well, Tony is a ladies' man.
We just saw it.
Who was, his relationship with Bethany had gone sour. So I'm going to go intentional.
All right, intentional it is. Very good. He's going to go nail Morgana Le Fay. And I'll tell you, he should be. I would do Tony like James T. Kirk, just like always like seducing ladies. In fact, his whole rogues gallery are just like super powerful women. It's much better than like his friends that are women, like putting him in his place. At least the villains could do it. And here we have another instance of the magic of Morgana Le Fay taking place, where she sends these shards and they make this inky mass. And this is beautiful. I love this close-up. And this is where I got the idea for my whole constriction theory about Iron Man, Eric, is where it says right here, and where you got the close-up of his face. And you can't show any real emotion other than his teeth and his eyes unless you like really play with the mask. And I've seen that before, of course. But that's the fear of being stuck in this armor, and not being able to get out. I think for me, that's, if I was going to attack Iron Man as a writer, those would like Wonder Woman getting tied up on the cover of a comic book. Iron Man, like Whiplash is his enemy. This guy not only going to electrocute me and turn my stuff off, he's going to enwrap me with his bullwhip. Now, if I was going to make it for today, maybe the bullwhip would come from like his pelvis or something.
Now, one thing they figured out, probably because of the movies, was to go inside the helmet.
Sure.
To see the face. And I think that's probably become overdone. since then because it's everybody's go-to move now. But yeah, trying to convey emotion through a suit of armor, not an easy thing to do.
No, and I mean, I do like artistic license or interpretation when it comes to, even up in the top left corner, there's a little bit of a furrowing of the brow, going on there, but it's still slanted, it's still the part of his armor not moving.
In Marvel Team Up 48, his armor sweat.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Excellent. Who was doing that? Well, it was probably on the cover, right?
I think it was no, it was in the interior.
Oh my.
Sal Buscema and Mike Esposito, I believe.
All right. Well, what number was that?
48, I think.
All right, excellent. Everybody, we should check that one out. But first, let's get through this. Morgana Le Fay sends her crow out, and it turns into a dragon. Excellent. So he's getting to do all the fantasy stuff that he rarely does. And dig it. Even that affects Tony. But he throws this canister. What is this? I can't remember. It's a slender tube, and it turns it to ice, and it falls and breaks. And so here he's in the room with Morgana Le Fay. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is the time when you get James T. Kirk her right here. And she's even like, "Oh, you make me hate you."
You say that's her O face in the bottom right-hand corner.
Well, I mean, it's like I can't help myself.
well, if it is, Greg Land just traced it.
Well, he did. It's true. Anyway, Morgana Le Fay is like, I'm stuck to here, but she goes like in a different, she shifts realities or something like that. Anyway, she leaves, and the Legion of the Dead fall, and Doctor Doom's super pissed off. He screams and he breaks through, and they're just about to start slugging it out, and then Doom's like, oh wait, everything I came back here to do is not going to occur, so we got to get the F out of here. And wait, here I passed through this too much. Oh, I didn't. So Iron Man's all, well, if I'm going to do what you want me to do, power down my suit and use our electronics to make some device to go back in our normal time, what are you going to, how can I trust you? And Doom's all, because you have my word. Because Avenger, you have my word. He was calling him lackey all that time, and now so this is like a cool moment with Doom. I think he's evil, but if he tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it, and I dig that. What do you think?
Yeah, that's something that kind of made Marvel villains a cut above DC.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the first Galactus story when Galactus agreed to leave. They said, well, how can we trust you? And the Watcher says, because Galactus' word is the truth. Mm-hmm. And same with Doom, because there have been times when he's been forced to work with heroes, and he's always honored the terms until the very second he no longer has to. So,
of course. In fact, Tony, when they're done here, he's like, we've got, just before they start. In fact, here, let's go to it. Just before they start. So they're working on it. They're dismantling all their stuff. He doesn't let Doom know that he's Tony Stark. And Doom's like, oh, man, if his underlings are as smart as this, Tony must be a freaking genius. Anyway, just as they're about to do it, and this coincidentally looks a lot like an ultimate nullifier also, sort of.
It kind of does.
But they both have to touch it. So now I'm thinking, all right, so firstly, just before they do this, Tony's like, we got 24 hours. We're going to end up in a place that's neutral, and we're going to leave each other alone for 24 hours. And Doom's like, yeah, those are the terms of agreement. I was thinking that this thing, because they don't shake hands afterwards, but it seems like they are right here. And this reminds me of a scene of the Venture Brothers. Oh, damn. Oh, shit. I can't show that much. Hold on. All right. That was a little screwy, but that'll fix in post. So yeah, so here they are. They got their melted circuits on their hands, and they go their merry way. Bravo. I like this story a lot. I feel bad for Dr. Hopman because when dude gets back, I don't think it's going to go well for him.
More than likely not.
More than likely not. All right. All right. So no sound. There was no sound, Jill said. That's a shame on the clip. Well, I screwed up. What you going to do? Let me see if I got one thing I can say about that. No, I don't. Oh, yeah, I can. All right. I'll tell you what. I'm going to make it so we can. How's that? All right. Share screen. Oh, that's right. Well, maybe that's the reason.
Just shake hands and leave as enemies.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to do your killer hand thing.
So did I.
All right. Yay, I won. Oh. All right, let's go back and see. I did that. Great conversation, guys. I think we said that already. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Moby T. Oh, wait. Joaquin, how's it going, buddy? Moby T. The mid to late 70s were pretty self-contained in most Marvel books. Is that true? I agree. In fact, even more so when Jim Shooter took over. Was he editor at this time? Do you remember?
Yes.
He was. Now, so interesting. I was on John Byrne's robotics forum, and I was looking at his frequently asked questions, his facts section. And he was talking about his tenure at Marvel towards the end and why he didn't do certain things. And one of the things they asked is like, I really like the first 2 issues of your Indiana Jones. Why didn't you do more? And the decree at the time by Jim Shooter was that there were going to be no continuing issues from one to the other. It had to be a self-contained story. There could be an overlapping or overarching story, but it had to be an ending for the most part. Because I remember some Spideys where it was cliffhangery. But when they did Indiana Jones, Byrne was like, well, it has to be a cliffhanger kind of comic book. And so, and of course, he's always having problems with people anyway. But he said that's the reason why he left that book. And it's ultimately the reason why he left, Fantastic Four and stuff like that.
I'm thinking back, and I don't see that as far as self-contained stories, or just wrapping them up after each issue or two, because I can remember, there were all kinds of plot threads in X-Men, Daredevil, Thor, Fantastic Four, even through Spider-Man.
But it was something that I have read that he was into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I there was a year, and I believe it was 1970, when Martin Goodman outlawed continuing stories. So each issue had to be one and done. And there would be stories where I remember Captain America beats MODOK in like 2 panels on page 20 because they would literally run out of room because they were designed to be 2-parters, and Goodman wouldn't let them do them for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was very noticeable. I didn't notice that about Shooter because, hell, I mean, you look at his Korvac saga that he wrote himself. I mean,
but do as I say, not as I do.
But I also remember.
I mean, somebody else supposedly came up with the Secret Wars idea, right? Maybe.
But we just did, like Mantlow's Hulk story evolved over 2+ years. Yeah, so I'm not sure that I agree with whoever pointed that out, because too much evidence to the contrary, I think.
Damn, Camelot didn't work either. Shit.
Oh, that's but we could.
I gotta remember to add sound. Oh well. Again, post. Oh no.
It'll be working when this goes into syndication.
That's right. I'm really bad about doing clips and putting them back out. In fact, last week I got my first scolding from YouTube. I played some stuff from a politician. Let's not even get too deep into who it was. But they were saying some stuff, and YouTube was not too happy about it. And they're like, well, this doesn't go along with our terms. And so they give you the option to fight that and speak your case. And I said, well, I understand where you're coming from. And if based only on that, I understand what you're saying. But there were other things that followed it. And don't we want to hear what idiots have to say anyway? But they didn't agree with me at all. So that's why I'm very vague about what I'm talking about. Hey, so where can we see you next, Eric, if you're going to come and talk comics?
Tomorrow night on a channel called Graphic Man at 8 o'clock. We Four Color Fossils will be talking comics and showing off some stuff. It's gonna be a sports theme tomorrow night. So
oh really?
Yeah, we'll be showing off some magazines. I pull out a couple of the old sports cards, and the other guys. A lot of old comics get shown. Yeah, it's unique. I mean, it's not admittedly not for everybody. And then at 11 o'clock tomorrow on Ash on Comics, the Criminal Cast, we are doing My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies. It's basically a channel. It's a channel devoted to slurping Ed Brubaker's work. Really no other way to say it.
Ed Brubaker is the guy that is always pointed to when they're talking about money not being given to creators. And Ed Brubaker, I feel, as great as he is, and as much as I love the stuff that I've collected of his, when it comes to the IPs that he's worked on, he's way down the hill of the mountain of people that have done stuff that he did, regardless of names that they attribute to movies. I don't think that, it's tough. It's that's one of the reasons that Todd McFarlane stated that he wanted to do Image was because he created, Venom. But who created Venom? Jim Shooter, Mike Zeck, David Michelini, all these people that had a hand in that thing. And I think that's why things like Substack are so attractive to creators, that they can go and they can own their own stuff. And especially if they're getting paid money up front to be creative, well, that's a beautiful idea, right?
Yeah, I think Brubaker's point of contention was he was the one that finally had the pitch that Marvel agreed to bring Bucky back with.
Mm-hmm.
That said, if there wasn't a Bucky in World War II, there's no Bucky for him to bring back. So I don't have a dog in that fight. And although I will say his Captain America run is one of the 2 or 3 best runs of the 21st century, in my opinion. But his criminal stuff is just amazing. That whole the criminal stuff, the fade out, fatality. He's to me he's the best indie writer out there.
Yes, he is very, very good. I wanted to let everybody know that we have a Patreon page at Fantastic Comics. We also have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for now. If you need to get a hold of me for any reason, our DMs are open. You can also do Big Blue Yule. That's the one I'm usually on the most. But Facebook, like I said, Instagram for sure. I take messages. If there's a booking for the show, if you want to plug something, we should talk. Fischozo. You just launched your campaign. What's your campaign, man? And I just say man like that. You know what I mean? Guys. It's just guys. Folks. You know? Folks.
Carbon-based life.
Carbon-based life. Yeah, exactly. All right. I got a clip to play. I just want to thank our patrons. They're all scrolling down. Everything's stolen. I took that perch segment thing stolen. All of issues 149 and 150 of Iron Man and David McElhaney and John Romita Jr. and folks and guys stolen. All the openings stolen. I didn't even write the song that was performed by another band for the store or the show, whatever you want to call it. Stolen. Well, actually, that's not stolen. That's ours. We get to do with it as we please. But you know what I mean. I did nothing. I clipped it, and in some cases didn't clip it, and then sometimes you didn't get to hear it when I did it anyway. So some other time. Thank you for everybody that's helped us out. For as little as $1, it opens up anything that I broadcast to you. If we ever do something in the future, we really appreciate it. It's a lot of our customers or former customers still pitching in. It's really awesome. And some people that enjoy the show. You Murdered That Guy, and other people. So we really appreciate it. And like I said, we couldn't do it without you. Everybody say good night to Eric as we tune out. Don't forget. Oh, wait, let's hear. Catch me on next Fantastic Comics live stream, you guys. We're going to talk soon. Obviously, you're up. Are you still on vacation, or is this just your new schedule? Because, I don't want you to have to. I know Eric. These Angleton streams that you have done with him can go for a long time. How long do you go with the, what was it called? The four what are you guys fossils called tomorrow?
We usually go from fossils. About 8 to 11. So, you could guess, Jewel, it's 50 and up.
50 and up. Yeah, man. I love it. I should watch. Do me a favor. Well, is it in your Twitter handle that you do that stuff? Or
no? It's like I said, I don't know how to cut, paste, and send it. But Graphic Man is the name of the channel.
Graphic Man, gotcha.
Yeah,
I got it. Got it.
Yeah, I got to show you something real quick here.
Yeah, please do.
This is like this. He takes things and he takes posters.
Oh, let me make it big.
Them. So this is.
Oh, nice.
And the one that I really
master mold, right?
Check out all the additions to Action Comics #1.
That's excellent.
He saw that poster behind me of North by Northwest. So he did the scene where Roger Thornhill's running from the crop duster, and now it's me. So he's very good very talented with that stuff. But like I said, it's just I don't know if you've heard of a YouTuber named Gratu Orloff.
No.
This is a guy that his house is a pop culture museum circa mid 50s through mid 70s. It's amazing all the stuff he has in his house. There's a couple other YouTubers, Dr. Silver Age, and some people. They're smaller channels that, mostly, old fossils like me follow.
Have you listened to Shanghala or watched Shanghala also?
Yes. Duke
is fantastic.
Yeah. I subbed to him about a month or two ago. He, I think, is maybe has shown up in chat once. I lose track of y'all play. Yeah, but
There's a dude named Night Tiger that's really good also.
Night Tiger has
right.
been on Graphic Man stream.
Oh, really? All right. Awesome. I love that guy, man. I can't wait. I don't have old enough stuff for him, actually. But if I had anything.
I used to, but I don't anymore.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm sure I have something that he would dig, but he likes really old, fun stuff. And I really appreciate people like that.
And that's what all these guys are. I mean, I said they'll just pull out a stack of Disney funny animal books and just show them one at a time. And the older I get, the more I appreciate that stuff. And I said it because it's kind of like a haul video in live stream form.
Right. Yeah. Why do we like things that we didn't like when it was coming out when we should have liked it?
Well, because when we were younger,
mm-hmm.
we were either influenced by the people that were around us that might have been into different things. And then, superheroes were, you're 15 years old. You're not going to be caught dead reading a Donald Duck.
Sure thing. Yeah.
I mean, you get beat up enough for reading Superman. So, and I think it's just something you have to, you like as a kid, and then you rediscover later in life. And now they're older and they're just, pieces of, comic book history. And that's how I look at a lot of that stuff now.
When you got out of superheroes for a time and you said you were reading Independence, what were you reading? Do you remember?
Well, I never got out of superheroes.
None. Okay, very good.
But I after several years, I added, like when First came onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I became a big fan of Badger, Nexus, Stable.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then, Miracle Man over to Clips and stuff like that. But
those are great.
never been out. It took until the last 10 years when I finally started weaning myself off of the big two, with all new, all different.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of soured me on Marvel and New 52 at DC, although I've gone back and read some of those. And once they got over the shock and awe crap and settled in, there actually is some good stuff to be found there. But I've just found that, the newer stuff, even the good stuff, and I know there's stuff out there,
mm-hmm.
It's just, there's not enough of it because I've always, I kind of like with those two, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound with the universes. And if someone says, Marvel's got 5 or 6 good books out of 60 or 70, that's, it's just, I don't know. I said, and they're not going to me, they're never going to be as good as they were.
Right.
And that's my opinion. I mean, as Perch would say, your mileage may vary.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, your mileage may vary, and that's the thing. I often get burnt out. Thankfully, I'm kind of into miniseries, and that's what they're doing all the time. I feel like there was like a certain age group when I was younger, and they appreciated the miniseries more than I did. In fact, I often wouldn't even finish reading them a lot of times, especially if they were late. I remember there was a lot like that, like Camelot 3000 at the time and Dark Knight. It took me forever to read Dark Knight Returns. Of course, it took forever to come out. At least it felt like it was. Those were 2 big ones. Anything Alan Moore. It took a while for Watchmen. But those were, I mean... anyhow, I loved the Independence during those times. Also, I think the 80s were the best when it came to that.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, of course, I'm saying that with the regular mainstream stuff too. But even books that I haven't read that are really good, like Love and Rockets, came out during that time, and there was a lot during the 90s. I mean, I got more into Independence during the 90s, but it felt like it's so there was always like these professionals trying to not work for Marvel or DC. You know, that's why Charlton was there, and then First and Pacific and Comico and all these other companies. You know, all these creators are like working over there. That felt a little bit more, well, not all of them were mainstream professionals, but a lot were ultimately going to be. But like John Ostrander was over there, and, you know, he works on Suicide Squad and all these other guys. And now the independents, like in the 90s, are more like, I don't know. It's kind of the same, but in a way different. Like there was like the autobiographical stuff that was a little bit more like underground comics from the 60s. And those were like more what the independents became. And of course, like I don't really count Vertigo because it's DC backed, but more like the Fantagraphics type books. Again, Love and Rockets was in the 80s. And like a lot of the Dan Clowes stuff, but 8-Ball was rolling around in the 90s, and that was like a lot of the stuff that those other guys got famous for. And am I just rambling?
Well, I look at First as the main, to me, the
like Mike Grell was over there. He was on Legion. You know, it's like
he was taking a break from the mainstream, whereas Mike Byrne was ascending. He parlayed that into Flash, Punisher, then several. I know he did a Dead Man Prestige for you. Ostrander, that was kind of like where he, do not know who that is. He, that was kind of because once upon a time,
I do.
You had to earn your way onto the big two, and I'm guessing that like Ostrander and Tim Truman, over at Eclipse with Scout. I mean, they parlayed that into mainstream work.
There's also a lot more of the studio work ethic, I guess. People don't need to work in a studio as much as they used to anymore. It's nice to save rent, save space and rent if that's the case. But if you're just working from home and, somebody's in your parents' basement, depending on how old you are, you can just send it via the internet. No big deal, right? You don't even need to buy paper anymore. It's a different world. Anyway, Eric, thanks for coming on. I know I ramble a bit. Everybody else that's everybody else that's gonna give us a thumbs up, meet us next week on Tuesday at 8:00 Pacific. We'll talk about some other stuff. I didn't even talk about new comics that were coming out. It's kind of a light week. There is the Trial of Magneto, so that's a deal. We got our DC books in; they'll be in tomorrow, and the next couple of days, I should have last week's DC books in finally. That's what it's like to own a comic book store. And until then, read some comics. Bye.
Good night, kids.